The taxi receipt hit my phone at 6:42 p.m., a dull chime like a starter pistol. 2 minors, drop-off complete, my old address. I didn't scream, I didn't call him back. I sat on the edge of my bed in a quiet apartment he didn't know existed and let the moment settle, the kind of moment that rearranges your spine. I had already said no, calmly, clearly. I had said no the way adults do when they're done negotiating with a child wearing a man's face. He thanked me with silence, then he sent his kids anyway. That's how my brother has always loved, by force. We weren't always like this. When we were kids, he taught me how to ride a bike by letting go without warning. I learned fast because the ground was impatient. He took credit for that too. He always did. If something worked, it was because of him. If it failed, it was because I didn't try hard enough. I covered for him when he forgot birthdays, when he forgot to pay child support on time, when he just needed a few days and a few days turned into weeks. I was the emergency contact, the spare key, the quiet solution. I became useful, and he mistook usefulness for obligation. The last time we spoke, I told him I was moving. I didn't give him the address. I said I needed boundaries. He laughed and said, "Families don't have those." He said it like a verdict. I noticed the shift long before the taxi, the way he stopped asking and started announcing, the way favors became expectations, the way my refusals were treated like suggestions. When I said I couldn't watch the kids that weekend, he didn't argue, he just waited. That was the tell. So when the receipt came, I wasn't surprised. I was insulted. I checked the time. I checked the weather. I checked the name of the street I no longer lived on. Then I did nothing. I let the clock move. I let the consequences warm up. Because here's the part he didn't know. I didn't leave that address empty. I sold it. Quietly, cleanly. The new owner was a woman named Maribel, 62, former social worker, the kind of person who keeps her porch light on and notices details, the kind of person who knows the law not as a weapon but as a reflex. At 6:49 p.m., 2 kids stepped out of a taxi onto a porch that wasn't mine. They waited. They rang the bell. They waited again. Maribel opened the door and saw 2 minors with backpacks and no adult. She asked their names. She asked who sent them. She asked for a phone number. They had none that worked. At 7:03 p.m., she made 1 phone call. She didn't call me. She called it in. When my brother finally called me at 7:17, his voice was already cracking. He didn't ask how I was. He demanded to know where his kids were. "Safe," I said, "exactly where you left them." He swore. He blamed the driver. He blamed me. He blamed everyone except the man who put children in a car with instructions and no permission. I let him talk. I let him hang himself with his own breath. By the time the police reached him, they already had a report: abandonment, reckless endangerment, a history pulled up by a system that doesn't forget patterns, only waits for them to repeat. He tried to charm his way out. He always does. But charm doesn't work on paperwork. It doesn't work on timestamps. It doesn't work when a retired social worker calmly explains protocol to an officer who recognizes the tone of someone who has testified before. The confrontation came later, in a gray room that smelled like disinfectant and consequences. He looked smaller there, angry but cornered. He accused me of betrayal. I told him the truth, finally, without softening it. I said, "No, you heard me, you just didn't respect it." He said family doesn't do this to family. I said family doesn't send children to a locked door. There were hearings, mandatory classes, temporary custody adjustments he didn't see coming. His ex-wife smiled for the first time in years, not because I'd won, but because the system finally noticed what she'd been saying all along. I didn't celebrate, I slept. Weeks later, I drove past my old street. Maribel was on the porch watering plants. She waved. I waved back. We didn't talk about it. We didn't need to. My brother doesn't call anymore. He texts sometimes. Polite, careful. He asks instead of assumes. He learned a new language. I didn't ruin him. I didn't touch him at all. I just stepped aside and let him walk into the life he'd been building one entitled choice at a time. And for the first time, I didn't catch him when he fell.